4 o'clock, the meeting is called to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Member Breeze.
Here.
Member Moore. Is absent. Member Schnopp.
Here.
Member Sharkey.
Present.
Ex officio member Thompson.
Here.
And Vice Chair Stone.
Here. Item 2, the agenda. Does anyone want to amend it?
I move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move to a board reorganization, and the new members can take the oath of office.
Please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I,
Sylvia Munoz-Schnopp, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
The Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Okay, we'll move on to item B, nominate chairperson for Port Hueneme Water Agency Board. It is recommended the board nominate and appoint a chair from COPH to complete the current term. Do I hear any nominations?
Mr. Chair, I nominate Jon Sharkey.
I second that.
Okay, is there any discussion on that? I'll let the record show that Director Moore has come into the meeting. And we're at the point of a nomination and a second regarding the new chair. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the new chair, I take it at this point, will take over. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Happy to go. Super over here.
Okay.
Left here. Thank you, Mr. Snow. Thank the board. We'll now move to item 4, business items. 4A, approval of minutes. I move to approve. This motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes? Take your time.
There was a new business to be agendized in the minutes, Member Moore, Vice Chair, someone requested water consultants to give a full report at the next board meeting, include background priorities and what was in the form. And can you correct me if I'm wrong? Is that on the agenda?
I don't see it. Is there a reason that's not on the agenda?
Thank you.
At some point in the past, there was a request that water consultancy would come and Lynn Tuckey would come to every meeting. We placed it on the agenda, and he had a scheduling conflict this time. He intended to be here, but he got mixed up with the switching of the meeting. He thought the meeting was last week on the 11th. And so he scheduled himself into some kind of a conference or something today, and he couldn't get out of it, and that's why he's not here, and that's why he's not here to give his regular report.
We do have a report, though.
Well, we have his, there was a request from from Director Stomo to have a document authored by Mr. Takichi for like kind of a schedule, look-ahead schedule with accomplishments, task accomplishments and dates, and we did get that from him, and it is on the agenda.
All right,
as
thank you
one
very
of the,
much.
Items.
Move to approve. It's on the agenda?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
should be.
in the agenda?
It's intended to be, oh,
It's
item
on
F. Item F, the strategy document from Water Consultants.
Okay, so that'll be taken up later in the agenda.
Okay.
All right, so we have the minutes before us.
Yes.
So we have a motion to approve in a second.
And second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And the chair will abstain. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Move to item 4B, cash disbursements ratification.
I move to approve.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the cash disbursements ratification are approved by unanimous vote. Move to item 4C, Bywater Inc. Water quality analysis and pilot testing. Have a report?
Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Steve Hickox, water manager, and he'll explain how this came about, and then we'll have an opportunity for the board to hear the report from Bywater.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. As we know, the treatment facility has been offline due to the water quality. We are seeking different avenues in which we can better produce our water and see if we can get it back into operational mode. Recently, there's been discussions with Bywater Inc., who is the manufacturer of our most recent nanofiltration treatment train. Bywater is aware that our facility is down. They have a very genuine interest in seeing that our equipment that we purchased from them is operational. They are interested in assisting us and helping us identify if there's a possible treatment solution that would allow us to operate the facility and provide better water quality for our customers. And staff believes that this is an opportunity for us to maybe take a look at and see if we could possibly partner with Bywater. It would require PHWA staff to assist in sampling and analysis. We would operate our treatment membranes as a pilot once some treatment analysis have been completed in a laboratory. And we'll see if we can get some beneficial or desirable water quality through our membranes. And Bywater is here to provide a brief presentation on to the scope. They are offering this service free of charge to PHWA as purchasing the equipment with them previously. And I'd like to introduce the members and have them come up and do the presentation. Bywater representative is Richard White.
Come on down.
And accompanying Richard is Phil Christopherson with the AWC Chemical Company.
Thank you all for giving us this opportunity. That we have an invested interest that we want to see our systems that we supply in operation at all times. So hearing that the plant is down, obviously we want to solve solutions as we do day in, day out as part of our work. As the steps go through on this, what we propose as a testing phase, there is little or no risk to the agency in terms of cost or exposure. As we go through, the risk is less and less, therefore the exposure or cost in terms of time or assistance by the agency that might be there, but that will increase, but then the risk will go down because we will not proceed to the next step unless we see good evidence that the chemical solution that we're trying to look into will will present itself and be a good solution. And not a silver bullet as such, but we will do some analysis and tests in the lab to see if we can treat the source water and come up with a win-win for the city.
Basically, some of the most important pre-treatment on a membrane system like this was the chemistry side of it. And your feed water originally with your systems here was a fairly easy water to treat as far as scaling or fouling. And that's changed with the drought in California, and in your case, like several other municipalities throughout the state of California, to a severe degree. Well, what our company does is a little different from the other companies that provide these pre-chemistries to membrane, in the fact that we take it in a step-by-step process. We'll first review the water analysis you have in your system design. If we determine that another water analysis needs to be run, we'll actually draw the samples and we'll have the analysis run at our cost, no cost to you, no risk to you. At that time, we input data into a software program that could project scaling potential within a membrane system. Once we see that, if we see anything that alarms us, we go into our laboratory. And it's a fully equipped laboratory. We own our own scanning electron microscope. That's unique in our industry. Normally having a scanning electron microscope means you rent time at the local university. We do a lot of intensive testing for about 70% of the municipalities in the state of Florida that run membrane systems. We want to own our own equipment and do our own testing. At that point in time, it's no cost to you. We'll go into the laboratory and do testing. We'll pull samples of what precipitates. We'll look at it in the scanning electron microscope and identify exactly what is happening in your feed water and inside of your system. This is what we did for Orange County Water at their reclamation plant. And we eliminated their silica fouling by not controlling silica, but finding the trigger that was causing the precipitation. At that point in time, if we determine there is a product that will work and a dosage rate it will work at, and possibly a pH range that it will work at, which would mean you may have to add the addition of acid injection ahead of your system to pH adjust, we would then supply adequate anti-scalant to run for a pilot term that we would determine the length of. And in the case of your water, it could be as short as 2 weeks. We would probably want to see 30 days. So no cost to you for the anti-scalant. But during that testing time, you would have operations people operating. Your membranes in your system would be being used, just one train, the newest, the Bywater train. And periodically, you would maybe have to do some testing for us, like testing for iron or manganese or anything we identify that's going to be the key trigger that we want to control. That would be your cost and your risk. Your only risk is, truthfully, some expenditure to try and eliminate a problem that's rendered your system unable to operate at this time.
Any questions? Let's start with Mr. Breeze.
Okay. I have basically 3 questions. I'll ask them all to you because they're interrelated and your answer will probably cover them all. Our feed water quality changes and we don't have control over it. The wells that provide us water are operated by United Water District and they may change their wells or the feed water quality may change. How would you deal with that if you did all this analysis and then all of a sudden the feed water quality changes? Are you going to come back in and do another analysis or what happens? Secondly, would there be any danger to our membranes, not from your testing, but from the poor water quality, maybe plugging them or causing some damage to them while this process goes on? And if there is, who would pay for that?
Good questions. And to start with, it's not unique that your water quality changes. It's happening everywhere. I've been in this business since 1976. Water's been changing ever since then. I'm sure it was before my time as well. what we recommend to every agency that we work with is that once we're done and we have things operating right, you do regular water analyses, full analyses on your feed water coming to your system. Share that with us, share that with Bywater. We'll once again run projections. You may change after, if we have 5 years of El Nino, you may change to the better side. At that time, we wouldn't want you using the anti-scaling we had predicted for this. You'd probably be able to go to one that was less costly to use. I mean, our goal is to save you as much money. As far as the membranes, there would be some risk of them getting dirty or fouling up, and at that point in time, they would need to be cleaned. We would not put them at risk to where they would be damaged, right. We have a pretty good history of not doing that. We wouldn't even go forward after our first initial testing if we weren't sure that we were going to be able to control something. We'll tell you if there's any high risk to it.
And another question, is our facility capable of accommodating this with do we have adequate storage tanks and pumps, and if they're adding different chemicals, can we accommodate that without having to purchase equipment?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, I appreciate your offer, and certainly addresses a concern that we have. There are two types of systems, I understand. We have an RO and we have a ultrafiltration. Is your system one of those?
Yeah, the nanofiltration train, the
Is your
newest one is
system?
us, and the two existing trains are basically identical in terms of technology and.
So, yeah, but to lead that into my question, so your analysis will apply to all three designs?
Correct.
All three systems?
Yes.
I understand our problem is silting, which is particulate. Do you address particulate in your study?
Okay, yeah, we would address it, but chemistry-wise, controlling some of that would not have. Really, what I see from what I looked at today, I was over at the plant, I saw the little filters that they do silt density indexing on, and it looks to me like there's probably a lot of iron in there.
Okay.
Iron is much easier for us to deal with. Okay, so you have two types of iron. You have iron that is in solution and iron that's been oxidized and precipitated out. And is not in solution. We do have products that will control both to certain levels at different varying pH ranges. So again, it takes the laboratory testing. It's one of the things we are unique in, that we will actually do all of that work. We seriously believe any failure is detrimental to our growth and our good name. So.
Okay, so assuming that I gather you have a method to dissolve the iron, so is that what we're assuming, or how do you
Disperse it.
disperse it?
Right, disperse it. Get it to carry through and go to drain.
Okay.
Would be it. In other words, if you have a very high level of oxidized iron in the water, then periodically there will be a recommended cleaning procedure. You know, the real key is cleaning before the membranes are too severely fouled. They can handle the cleaning, but if you let them foul too severely, they'll never clean back to new.
Can't flush them out.
So that's one of the things that we do, is we work through companies like Bywater. We help to train the staff to understand when and how. That's paramount to our success also.
In your study and we get what sort of summary or report will we get from you? Or is it your data, and what would you be providing us?
I mean, when we have the analysis run, we would be more than happy to share the water analysis with you. The in-laboratory stuff will be added to what we do with the projection program. So you would get about a 5-page report out of the projection program that will show you everything that is going on in the system, what risks you have for scaling or fouling potential, and then it will select a product and give a dosing. Out of laboratory, we may change the product or change the dosing slightly.
Would there be perhaps any other recommendations, such as if it's silting and so on, necessary to add some other equipment to this? Is that part of your scope or not?
That's his job.
That's his job.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the bag filter that's currently in front of the system should be protecting the membranes against some of the fine silt, what we're seeing is carrying through those is more of the oxidized irons and very, very fine material. I think if it was heavier stuff, it would have been taken out already.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome aboard.
So I have a question here. So this might be more for staff, but there's an approximate cost of $7,500. Can you kind of give a little bit of detail about what
Yes,
that might be?
Yes, we were estimating laboratory analysis, sampling analysis to be done, collected by staff and then sent to our lab. There has since been some discussion that depending on how tight they want the analysis to be, there's different variances between labs, and it was my understanding there was a potential that sampling analysis would be completed within your lab so that you can control the sampling protocol and.
That would be the initial one. Once we review the water analysis that's available on your, if we determine we want another one, we'll do that for all. I'll personally come draw the water samples and take them to the laboratory we work with. We've screened a lot of laboratories, you know. Laboratories are like any other business. Some are better than others. And we're pretty particular on what we see.
Correct, and that's with the maximum exposure and during the full duration of this pilot test. It also, there is some energy cost associated with trying to run the facility. There would be some normal water cost, but if it's successful, then we feel like the $7,500 initial investment is worth the effort.
Okay. All right, thank
Any
you.
other questions? Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
you guys are both at the same time.
If this program is successful, how would the plant operate and what impact would that have financially on PHWA? And also, I'll ask my other question, what impact would it have on water quality?
Obviously, we're looking to achieve our normal water quality that we're used to providing our customers. That's our goal. I'm sorry, what was the first question?
The financial impact?
Yeah, we would, once the report is complete, we would come back to the board with the findings of the report. That report would probably have an analysis for operational cost, projected maintenance with the new chemicals, because there will be a change in chemical. That's the purpose of this lab test. And it is the desire of these individuals that if they're helping us to identify a corrective process, that their products would be the ones that would be hopefully included in the operation. But that would be determined after the analysis are done and we.
So if it works and the plant's up and running, what would be the cost difference, if you want to use per acre foot, of how we're operating now and how we would be operating when we're back up and running?
I don't anticipate any major changes in our normal operating cost. What would change, obviously, would be the amount or cost of the new chemicals that would create, and that has not been determined until we can identify what values, what volume, and what product is best suited.
So if it turns out that this is successful, they have a vested interest because they can get us back and running and they can sell us a new product. We'll bring this back to the board, and it's the expectation or the anticipation is the chemical may be a little more expensive than our normal, the normal chemicals we're using, the anti-scale chemicals we're using now. That'll be a board decision. We'll bring that back after they have developed something, and we won't go forward with anything until we bring it back, and we'll have a better idea at that time what the cost would be to get us back up and running and get our water quality up again. But as Steve said, operationally, it's more or less a wash probably, and there's anticipated to be a little bit additional money for the chemical, and this would presumably be a short-term solution also, because at some point with the iron and manganese treatment or initiated by United up in there where the wells are, and even the end of the drought or some relief from the drought, we wouldn't need to use this additional chemicals.
Could this pilot program prove that we may not need iron manganese pretreatment?
It could possibly.
I would say that if you were looking at it to be the tool to do so, I wouldn't weigh heavily on it. It's pretty hard to replace iron and manganese removal as a benefit to pretreatment, depending on the levels. So.
Okay, thank you.
You had my question. Says, I trust that the product from this, we won't be supplying water to the system with this during this test. Is that true?
It depends on the volume and duration. I understand that we will be running the trains, one train, to production.
Oh, okay, fine, thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the board?
I have
You have another one?
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say I'm very interested in finding a solution to our water problems. I've had 4 neighbors replace their dishwashers because they thought their dishwashers were broken. The water's so bad. And I've had 2 phone calls, people who are going to replace their dishwashers because they thought they weren't working correctly. And I told them just pour some vinegar in there or wash my hand or do something. Don't spend $400 or $500 because we're working real hard to fix our water quality issue. And I know people have been buying the home water treatment equipment and paying a monthly. I had one lady, she called me for 30 minutes explaining how hard it was going to be for her to have that additional monthly expense of water treatment. So I'm excited for an opportunity to solve these problems that we have. And your program sounds good to me. And I'm in favor of it.
Any other questions? Yeah, there was a sparkless truck parked in front of my garage yesterday. Just one very quick question. The item before the board is to direct staff to conduct a water quality analysis associated with the pilot test. How much staff time do you think that's going to involve?
We would be involved in that a full 9-hour day, Monday through Friday in our operation. Maybe 2 employees at the most. So 18 hours a week, or I'm sorry, 18 hours a day.
Are you saying just to pull these samples? I think he's asking about just pulling the
I'm asking about the item that's before the board, which is the water quality testing.
To do a pilot test, we'll be monitoring our trains, not only for the water quality, but the pressure differentials. We'll be backwashing the bag filters. We're going to be checking the analyzers. We're going to be doing in-home, so to speak, sampling, our own process control sampling. So yes, we will be involved in the process, but this is what we do every day.
That's the question. This is not a heavy burden in addition to your normal
No, sir.
staff work. That was the question. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Okay, is there a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the recommendation for bywater testing of the system and the report.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Without objection, the motion carries by unanimous vote. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to item 4D, third stage reverse osmosis project update.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Chair Sharkey. This is just a quick update. As the board knows, the project was awarded on the 12th, and the presentation is currently scheduled for the December meeting, which is the presentation by KEH of the preliminary design report. These bullet items are just to show just to minimally show the progress that has taken place since the last time we were here. We gave a short report at the last meeting. We have received the preliminary design report. We've done our review, our initial review. We met with the consultant yesterday and had a discussion about our comments and our changes and our request for revisions. They are currently working on it. We're continuing to discuss certain things with them. At this point, we still are on schedule for a month or so from now, at the December 9th meeting, to have the report presented to the board by the consultant. And there's really no other information to report at this time. It's just a little progress report.
All right, any questions?
Yes, I think I'd like to just suggest or just ask, so you did have a visit with, a meeting with them, and you had some preliminary results or input as to what the process or what they're suggesting to do?
Yes, we do. Just roughly speaking, they're anticipating 2 treatment modules to work with the 3 treatment trains we have. One would operate fully, and the other one would operate as a backup and maybe operate 80% of the time. The preliminary results they have, which we're still overlooking the data, it does appear to be at least as good as our initial calculations in terms of payback. So the viability of the project does seem to be there, but we're still scrubbing data with them. We've noticed a few anomalies in some of the data that we supply them and they use in their report. And so we're still working on some of those issues right now to make sure. So I don't want to really be conclusive and say that for sure the project is viable. Of course, it's going to be a decision of the board anyway as to what the board wants to do in terms of moving forward. But that's really all I want to say in terms of what we have. And I'd rather, since we're still in the review stage and the consultant has only given us a draft to review, I'd rather not conclusively say that those are the results. But so far it looks pretty good.
And is there information to develop the grant review?
It will include the grant review, and they've identified some grant funding, and the grant funding that they have, there are some options there, and it is included into the financial analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So it was beneficial to reduce the payback period of the project.
So do we have a conclusion that we're looking to reach, or are we going to put this thing into a hold mode as we understand some of the other issues, or what do you see?
I think timing-wise, it's most likely that the board will choose to put it on hold a little bit, because some of the other issues are still developing. As you know, we have some issues with the plant site and some things like that,
Okay.
and we're continuing to work on those items.
So we'll know this next meeting.
But we'll give you the update insofar as we are able to with regard to those ancillary issues, as you somehow placed it. But certainly the board will want to know information about those issues with regard to how soon any direction is given to staff to proceed with the next phase of this contract. As you recall, the board limited their work to a certain few task items, basically the preliminary design report and the grant analysis. And we can't go farther than that. I think it was like 70,000 plus the 10% contingency. So we would never go past that, and the board will have the opportunity to look at that. And my feeling is that at this point, a month away, is that the board will probably want to hold off on initiating the next direction to proceed for just a little bit longer. as we work on those other issues.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? Move to receive and file. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, motion carries by unanimous vote. We will now move to item 4F, Water Supply Strategy Report from Water Consultancy Inc.
Did we skip 3E?
Did I skip that? Oh, yes,
Yeah.
okay, sorry, yep. I'm out of practice.
That's okay.
We will take 3, brackish water reclamation demonstration facility operational performance.
Thank you. Again, nothing's changed at the plant. The facility is in bypass mode. The SDIs remain high, and the water quality is not desirable for running through the membranes at this time.
Any questions?
In the summary of operating committee meetings, it said that the committee meeting was canceled, and the next was scheduled for November 9. I'm not sure I understand, has there been an operating committee meeting? And if not, what would cover this subject? Does this subject need to be covered in the operating committee meeting because you're not running?
No, sir. The purpose of the operating committee meeting that was scheduled here was to discuss the groundwater credits.
Okay.
And that November 9th meeting did take place, and it is scheduled to be on the December agenda.
Thank you.
I do have a question though. With the percentage here, UWCD 91%, CMWD 9%, is that reasonable? Is that what we've been tracking over the course of time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And it's demand selective.
Mhm.
We don't control that. When the production is not high enough in bypass mode, then the Cayuga supplies will come on and cover our peak demand periods.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody? This is an item you received and filed.
Move to receive the report.
Motion is second. Motion is second. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, motion carries by unanimous vote. Now we'll move to item 4F, Water Supply Strategy Report. Anything to, any comments?
Just following up with what I said earlier, Mr. Takichi regrets not being here today because he had double scheduled himself and he was in a conference. And he provided this this report pursuant to the request from the last board meeting. And I can't really speak for him, but if I can answer questions about process or anything I can try to answer, but it's his work.
Any questions from the board? Member Schnopp?
Questions?
Yeah. So the priority 5, the participate in regional collaboration, there's a medium mark there. Can you explain just really briefly, like in 2 sentences, what regional collaboration is all about?
Yes, the regional collaboration was meant to encompass just working with all water agencies, which could possibly have any kind of connection with the Port Hueneme Water Agency. For instance, Oxnard, United, Cayugas. We even had some meetings early with Ventura, and it was generally just think of, in a general sense, just anyone who we could possibly partner with or find a joint project with or anything like that, and that effort is ongoing.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Stillwell?
Yeah, if we go back to the minutes, we had asked that the water consultant would give a full report at the next board meeting to include a diagram of priority and what work has been performed. And I read this, I see certain priorities, and I don't see anything that's been performed. And I say that in the light of information that I would need to make a decision on whether we were going to go ahead with KEH. Because as you know, we have 2 issues, one with the city of Oxnard and the other one with United Water, contracts and agreements that are coming due in July. And if they're not renewed or agreed upon, it's going to adversely affect the agency. And when we gave these contracts back at the beginning of the year, the board said that they were a high priority. And it seems to me that from my point of view, I haven't been getting the information that we've been asking for. Starting back in June, we had asked for monthly reports, which he agreed to give, which to my knowledge we haven't been getting. And in July, we had requested a progress report, which was to be on the agenda. And for some reason or mix-up, it wasn't. In August, he was going to give a report, and it turned out that you were going to give the report, at which point you could not give the report. Do you recall that?
Not particularly.
And then we went to September, where water consultancy was to be here to submit a report, and he was not here, but he gave a short, what looked like a billing. I didn't bring the documents with me. I figured you'd recalled it. So unfortunately, he's agreed to do certain things which he hasn't done. On July the 8th, at the July the 8th meeting, he said that when he submitted a bill, he was going to say who he'd met with, how much time he spent with them, and what the charge was. Do you recall that?
Definitely, I do recall that.
Well, I haven't seen any of that.
Well,
So I'm at a loss. I was hoping that if he couldn't be here and he submitted the bills, at least we could kind of understand some of the things that were going on.
well,
But right
you're
now,
right.
I don't feel as if I have any more information now than I did back in April or May.
Well, what we can do is go back, and I do remember in the past, we had sent out to the board members some of the past bills, and we can go back and find his bills and distribute those to the board members. Definitely, that's something we can do. And that, I'm presuming that
You did
those,
send me some bills, but
Yeah.
it was not like he agreed. Do you recall that it was not like he agreed to do?
I recall that you were not particularly 100% satisfied with what was presented on those bills.
Based on what he agreed to do.
Right, and I believe we did have that
It
conversation.
didn't say how long you met with him, and it didn't show that particular charge. And again, it was only to help me to understand how the negotiations were going.
Good point.
I mean, at the next meeting, we're going to be in December, which means that the agreements with the city of Oxnard and United are going to be coming due in July of next year. Yet we have a consulting contract out with KEH to investigate the possibilities of a double RO system that we can't, and me, I don't know with the rest of the board, but I don't have enough information to say, yeah, we should go ahead with it or we shouldn't go ahead with it. So what can we do to kind of alleviate the blockage of information?
Well, what I'm going to do following today's meeting is go back, research all the information that we've provided to date, and we'll give you all the invoices that have come in since then. We'll look at that and find out if it's the level of information you just described, which is what meeting was attended, how many hours, and things like that. Excuse me. And we'll transmit that. If it doesn't look satisfactory in terms of what you've asked for, and I think what Mr. Takaichi has agreed to provide, we'll remind him about that and ask him to augment what's there. I haven't personally looked at the invoices since the last time I sent it out to all the board members, and I think it was several months ago, so I'd have to look at it and see if the quality or the breadth of the information has changed, and I hope it has. But
I want to get stuck on that, but the last part of this to be agendized was to include a diagram of priorities and what work has been performed. And if I look at this, I don't see where he indicated what work had been performed in any descriptive manner.
Well, I'll have to take some responsibility for that. That terminology doesn't seem familiar to me, and we asked him, or he was at the last meeting.
Yes, he was.
When he asked him,
Yes, he
and he submitted this document, and when I looked at the document that he submitted, I thought it met the requirements that you're asking for, and so I accepted this and said, thank you very much, I'll get this onto the agenda, and I'm sorry you can't be at the meeting, but please come to all future meetings from now on. So I'll go back and research that further, and it's clearly showing the steps to be taken, but maybe the part about what was accomplished or documents of meetings and things is not there. So I'm sorry, I thought this was what you asked for.
Well, maybe I'm not maybe I'm not describing what I was looking for. I don't know, that's why I'm kind of asking you. In August, the board directed water consultancy to report monthly to the board.
Right.
And
I think
reports are like progress reports.
Right. So in terms of his reporting monthly, I know regrettably he's missed 2 of those meetings since that direction came through, and one being today.
So is there a way that I can express it to get him here? Tell me how I should express it.
Well, I'd be happy to express it to him for you, but...
Well, I don't... As long as we can get the report,
Yeah, so, and then we have impressed upon him that it's really not right that he didn't understand this meeting. If I'm not mistaken, he was at the meeting when we switched this meeting, so we were a little disappointed that he forgot that the meeting had switched by 1 week. And so in terms of the information, who knows, it might be there in those invoices and the information provided. We'll look at that, and of course you'll be here in the next meeting and then thereon.
I had 2 invoices, 10/22, 2015, 10/22, 2015, one for $520, one for $4,420. I never saw the invoices.
It'll be easy for us to do our research and make sure that every invoice since the ones we've already transmitted will be transmitted to you. It'll be easy.
Thank you.
I still have the old email, and we have the copies of the invoices.
Okay, Member Schnopp.
Sure. So, in this detail and all, I'm a little surprised though, but the way a board should be is that we should expect the staff to manage the consultants, not necessarily this group. We're working with the staff who's working directly with the consultants to look at those details. That could be something provided, but I'm not so sure if that's the board that's really needed to look at, who the person met with, how long you met with them, what the detailed invoice is. That could be handled behind the scenes, during the time before the meetings to then answer the questions. But, our expectation then of, as a board should be that, we work directly through staff. Staff handles those contracts when we approve them and manages then the people according to what the contract specifies. That's all.
Well, let me remember.
Reward that Mr. Stillwell.
Pardon me?
Reward that Mr. Stillwell.
Oh, thank you, Chair. We hired, when did we hire him? When he first got part of the contract?
I have to go back and look. I can't.
He had a contract through services through 9/30. Well, the point I'm getting to is he was at the last meeting, and he sat here very carefully, and I was very specific what I was asking him to provide. He said, well, my reports are verbal. That's not what I expect in terms of report. If you've been hired to do a job, you would provide a summary of the work you do in a form that the fellows can read and be referenced by. Coming in with a verbal report, it's not a report. It's a pleasure to see him and all that, but that wasn't what we expected. And I was very specific that I wanted to see documentation of the work he's done. Now, we brought him on board for the board's information and an ad hoc committee program that we started because we assured everyone that we had a crisis, a water drought crisis. And we felt that the only way we were really going to get our arms around this is to take some attention to it. We couldn't meet here quarterly and do that. So we did an ad hoc committee meeting for a period of time. And we was hired to work for that committee and report. He came to his report, he came to those meetings, and he looked like he knew what he was doing. But I never saw a piece of paper from this gentleman since he's been with us. Having an invoice is not a piece of paper. That doesn't concern me at all. I'm looking for information with this board to understand where we are, what we're doing, and what our plans are, and how we're going to get there. We have a note here that we're gonna obtain Oxnard concurrence, OH agreement, high priority, estimated completion date, end of the month, 11/30. That's 2 weeks, right? Are we gonna have anything by the end of the month? We have another one for negotiating with United by end of December. Now, from the reports he's provided in his verbal meetings here, the discussions went, well, I scheduled a meeting, but they didn't show up, or we had trouble getting in contact. I mean, there's been no real participation here as far as I can tell.
Well, I would like to note that in his initial work for the agency, he did produce a strategy document, which was presented to the board. It was a fairly robust written document, and the board did in fact discuss that and approve it. I could look it up, I don't know when it was.
I recall that.
But there was an initial strategy document.
But that's months ago.
That's true, but it's essentially...
Nothing's been reported since then in terms of a report from this gentleman that I know of. And so it calls the question of why are we continuing to work with him? If we have a crisis, we have a problem, what are we doing about it?
Well, the board's direction was to work with Mr. Takaichi and have him lead the effort to implement that strategy, and I believe that that process is still ongoing.
Mr. Stoll, Mr. Breeze.
Oh, no, I wanted to address the comments by Ms. Schnopp. Everybody has their own management philosophy. And I understand that some management philosophy is to leave it to staff, and once you move to approve it, it just goes. My management philosophy is I like to kind of stay involved and up to speed on what's going on. You know, I don't, everybody is welcome to how they do things, but that's how I feel. So consequently, when I'm asking these questions, it's for my information that would supplement the way that I look at things.
Mr. Breeze.
I'm not sure there's still not existing between the board and staff and Mr. Takaichi a disconnect. The board would like to see when Mr. Takaichi turns in his monthly billing, a list of who he talked to, what the subject matter was there any progress from the last meeting, a report for each item on the bill. Maybe Mr. Takaichi's opinion of he's reaching his goal or not, or something. And I know that's difficult, especially dealing with water. Things change so quickly. You might meet with 2 or 3 different people in a day or two, and what you thought was happening when you started isn't anywhere near what's happening, by the end of the second day. I mean, that happens all the time regarding water. And how you document that, I don't know. But Mr. Takaichi's a professional. We need a report, written report. Who he met with, what was the topic of discussion, is there any progress on these 8 items, where we stand, something. I think that's what Mr. Snopp was asking.
Thank you, Director. I'm even less than a government ease or something.
So, what I would recommend staff do is get hold of Mr. Takaichi, have him write such a report on these 8 items for this thing that he submitted, and send it off to the Channel Islands Beach and to the city as soon as he could get to it. Get us an update where we're at on each of these items. And I know it's going to be hard because things change so quickly, but that's what we're paying him to do. We need some sort of documentation on where we stand. And if you could do that, I'd appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Staff, you have enough? Anything else from the board?
No.
Okay, this is just an informational recommendation for action. Move to item 4G, Sustainable Groundwater Management Act.
Thank you, Chair. At the October 14th board meeting, board requested that staff provide the board with information related to the requirements of a GSA. The GSA is a groundwater sustainability agency. Those requirements fall under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which was attached or included in the agenda item in the packet. For reference, it lists all of the requirements of the GSA, what is expected of the GSA, and what the GSP, the Groundwater Sustainability Plan, must include. Those items were requested by the board and were submitted today for review.
Are there any questions on this? Okay, the recommendation.
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you.
Would you start? Right.
I sat and listened to the very first presentation to the board supervisors when GSA was promoted, and recognized what they were doing. So what we have here now is a very complex new system that's being placed on us that we're apparently going to be part of, or made a part of. And the role was going to be given to the Fox Canyon Management Organization, because they have a role to play, and that was manage the groundwater. So now they're going to take on the role of sustainable groundwater. And it was clear, and they admitted that they do not have staff, do not have infrastructure, they do not have equipment to supply with water. They manage the water that's there. Under this program now, they will have the ability to not only penalize the consumption of water, but also bill us for their new equipment, new personnel, new infrastructure that doesn't exist yet. So the comment then that we have no potential fiscal impact is that question. We already know that Fox Canyon is just beginning to add cost to our water. And what it is, it's not much, a couple dollars per acre foot. But the future here is significant for us. And my question for the staff and for the board is, what role will Channel Islands Beach and Port Hueneme Agency be when we are the end of the pipe in this organization? Will we have anything to say? Will we have any role to play? They keep mentioning in this document, you read it several times, and you'll come across a term called, just find it for you, excuse me a second, I'll find it. It's called an agency. Everywhere in here it references back to a public agency or an agency of some kind. They've never defined as to what that is, or who it is, or who is running it, or who's related to, and what is our relationship to that. So my view here, and looking ahead to the future, I can see something where the little flag is waving. We better start taking a look at this and what it's going to impact us and how we're going to relate to it. And must we play in this game, or do we have any other options? In other words, let's look ahead and see where this is coming to us, because it's coming down. It's a freight train down the road, and it doesn't look like you've got anything to say about it, and yet we are at the risk of, do we get water or not? Okay. You understand what my question is?
I don't.
Yes. Go ahead, Doug. You're on.
I haven't been attending those meetings, but I have been talking with various people from other cities, what their take is regarding this whole situation. And from what I understand, the cities are not very happy with the way things are going, and they think it's just going to turn out to be same old GMA, agriculture, cities bend over. There's a few cities that are trying to speak up regarding the municipal interests. Frankly, I don't know how to address Board Member Moore's issue unless we would either maybe hire a consultant. I don't think our staff has time to deal into it, or maybe if they want to form a committee of this board to go before the supervisors or the GMA and speak up. I'd be willing to do whatever I can. And I don't know if that addresses your issues or not.
I'm not going to make a proposal at this moment, but I would like to put this on the agenda for further review. Perhaps staff could have an opportunity to take a look at my point of view. The term is there's an area-wide planning agency. I'm looking at page 3, item 6532, item number 4. An area-wide planning agency whose operations may be significantly affected by the proposed action as determined by the planning agency. Nowhere in this document is identified what is a planning agency or who is it and who's our relationship to it. Those are the kinds of things I think I'd like to know more about. And thereby begin to understand this thing's coming down and it's going to impact us big time. Because this organization that's taken on this responsibility does not have a source of water. They don't have the people, they don't have the infrastructure or anything, but they're given the responsibility to go out and do that and charge it for them. Okay? Mike, is that better?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, what would be the point of what you're doing? Just so it's clear in my mind. Would it be to go to back to the organization and say, no, we don't want to go with you?
I don't know. I think we better understand it because it's so significant. We have to take we can't just accept this thing and say, oh, it's going to happen, because we don't have a clue, and I don't think they know either. Okay?
Because it's already stated that this has to be done by a certain time.
No, it's being rolled in, and we've not had any ability to understand it.
So you recognize it as state legislation, and Fox Canyon GMA was named by name in the legislation as the provider, as the GSA.
No, I saw it as a political action in which we are no longer able to control our sources. So I may be wrong.
I'm not sure that there's significantly more control over the water per se than there is now. They have the responsibility to prepare their planning document. And in fact, at the last meeting, we discussed that. And although you're right, this particular action on this agenda item is no financial impact, all that really meant was for us to present this to you, there is no financial impact.
I understand that.
But at the last meeting, we did talk about the financial impact from the assessment from GMA. And it was, I think, around $30,000 per year for the board, for the agency. So just to remind everybody, there was $30,000 impact identified for this assessment at the last meeting. We don't know of anything more at this point in terms of assessment or cost or financial impact to the agency.
Okay, we have clarity at the podium?
Thank you, Chair Sharkey. At the risk of bringing some humor to an otherwise serious subject, maybe I'll try and speak in BGs here. Those of us over there get considered a little crazy sometimes, Chet Island speak. The bottom line, we've kind of had this discussion. This as, what I'm concerned about is getting the board, giving direction to staff of something that we really don't have, whether it be me or I would certainly be working with your staff. The ability to affect at this point. The legislation's been put in place. The Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency is going to be the legislative body. There's no action we're going to take, anybody else sitting here that's going to pull our groundwater pumping rights out of the GMA basin. That's just not going to happen. The best thing that we can do in the direction from staff is for us to continue to, or direction from the board, to continue to monitor this and work with the GMA staff to understand where it is they're going. It's something that I've certainly expressed before the GMA at their podium, and our concerns when they begin assessing these fees is that whether or not the current GMA makeup is representative, as Director Breeze talked about, representative of all of the GMA stakeholders. And are they going to be the governing body that would be then issuing out sustainability charges? Because that's the idea behind this, is they're going to collect fees. The GMA, at least in theory today, is what they've talked about conceptually. They don't have any plans to construct a GMA-specific facility. The idea would be for them to collect sustainability monies and then give them out to projects such as ours, right? Maybe we're down the road too soon on the second pass RO, but that may be considered a type of project they may fund. What we want to make sure of in addressing Director Moore's comment is that we have a seat at the table when the money starts getting issued out, that it's not going to very specific pet projects, that there's a even
criteria.
Yeah, even criteria in how that's distributed. And it sounds like there is enough consensus from I attend some of the technical advisory group meetings and some of this as it's unfolding, a consensus that there would be some sort of, eventually, a groundwater sustainability funding committee that would look at the projects, rate the projects, and making sure that we have a seat at that table, I think, given where the train is down the road, is one of the most important things we can do. For us to try and unravel the legislation today isn't a possibility. How it affects us, that remains to be seen, as well as what those level of pump charges will be. So I just offer that in concern for what may get levied on staff in the order of work here.
Question?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think that's how I was going to boil it down, is that, we're just wrapped up into this legislation because of where we sit and who we get our groundwater from. So it's really just working effectively with the group that has been kind of ordained that, this is the way it's going to go. And it's come down through the state because this is the requirement. So thank you for that very clear explanation.
It's pretty, have they, so the regular GMA board members are going to be also serve as the sustainability?
That's correct at this time, yes.
And there is there ongoing discussions regarding the grant authorization committee and other, the way they're going to operate?
The best answer I can give to that is it hasn't been discussed recently because the overwhelming workload today is them establishing the technical, if you will, parameters in how the GSP will be developed and how the GSA will function in priority. Because remember, they haven't really formed this thing yet. They've said that we want to. Now they've got to facilitate the formation of that. So that's where the overarching or overwhelming majority of work effort has been today, is just trying to figure out how this thing becomes implemented through them.
Is there, do you have any suggestions of what PHWA and its member agencies can do to facilitate ensuring that our interests are represented?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've still, it's one of the bullet points in the last thing, and that's that regional cooperation. We're not alone in the discussion we've just had here, and making sure that, whether it's me or a member of PHWA or city staff is continuing to monitor these things and staying on top of them, so that when action time does come, that we're making sure that we're networking with the other regional partners, and that we can bring that information back to you. Perhaps there does need to be some board action to push things at some point, but right now, there's nothing specific that we would go after, at least in my opinion, at this point. So I guess it's continue to be diligent in our efforts in staying involved, and as those timelines come forward, making sure that we're diligent in bringing those back before the board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Very good.
Anything else from anybody? Yeah, I've been to a couple, at least, of the seminars and presentations on this, and we're pretty much stuck with the structure we have. There's certainly no easy way out, and Mr. Breeze is right, there's a whole lot of folks, particularly on the municipal side, that are not at all happy with GMA, not at all happy with what we've got, but, I think the recommendation is well taken. We all need to stay on top of this, and staff certainly needs to be engaged with the staff and other agencies that are going to be affected by this. It's a heavy tide running, and we've got to swim with it. Otherwise, we are going to get drowned. Okay, couldn't resist. All right, there's nothing else on this. It's recommended to receive and file. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move to receive and
There's a
file.
motion for a second.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, motion carries by unanimous vote. Let us move to item 5, board member reports and comments. 5A, request of Member Breeze, discussion of frequency and scheduling PWA board meetings.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this back up to the board and have another discussion on it. My feeling is that we could go back to quarterly meetings and then have a meeting as needed if staff or either agency wanted to have a meeting for whatever reason we could call one. But I think we could save the water agency about $30,000 a year if we cut back on our meetings. And my real concern is freeing staff up to do the things that they need to do other than preparing agendas and giving reports to the board if there's no significant changes. So I'd like to make that recommendation to the board that we go back to quarterly meetings, and then if staff or any represented agency has a reason to call a meeting, we just call a special meeting and deal with whatever comes up.
Is that a motion?
So I'd like to hear comments before I make a motion.
Are there any comments?
Well, having seen the board meet quarterly when there weren't as many issues as there were going on now, compared to the things that we're having to do essentially on a monthly basis, just some of the reports that are going to be coming with the Bywater work and with KEH, that I think that it's inconvenient and difficult to schedule special meetings because we all have schedules. And that it's been much easier for me to know that we're going to meet at a certain date at a certain time rather than holding special meetings. And the way government's set up about having to call a special meeting and agendizing it and meeting and notifying it 3 days before you have the meeting seems very cumbersome, particularly in view of all of the issues that we have going on now. I know that the money has already been budgeted for the fiscal year for the meetings, and I think that to go to a quarterly meeting at this stage would be penny wise and dollar foolish when I consider some of the things that have happened, that you had to make a decision in such a short period of time. If we go to quarterly meetings, let's just make this assumption, and we have 2 very important agreements coming up in July of next year. If we were meeting quarterly, that would mean that we'd meet at the most twice before that happened. And I don't think that that would be wise. So my feeling is because of all of the issues that the area, the region's facing, not only the Port Hueneme Water Agency, that we should continue meeting monthly. No, that's my comments.
Well, my observation is supporting, of course, the observations that Chair Stonewall had, but the point being is that we've been here before. We started out the year with a situation on a quarterly meeting basis, and we've done that fairly well. And if it's a simple situation in which we are running the system as it normally operates, there are no issues. The meetings can be 5 minutes, and quarterly you've covered everything you need to do. You've got staff says everything's running, is working. But here we have a crisis, we're in a drought situation, we have significant issues with water quality and running the plant or not running the plant, trying to meet our budget and schedule. So we started an ad hoc meeting to cover the basis that we weren't meeting it often enough to have enough information to work with. Right? So we said, we've been there. When we ended up, the quarterly meetings were insufficient. We had to meet regularly. And it was difficult then for staff. They had not only the board meetings to meet quarterly, but they had the monthly ad hoc meetings. So I don't know how you're going to save anything here until you can get past where we are today, back onto normal operations, in which basically all I need to do is give you one of those, you know, buttons from Staples, you know, to that everything's okay. Right now, I think we've got to meet regularly. We've got here a list of items here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, and they're at least a month apart in terms of having reports that we need to address and respond to. If we don't meet often enough to do that, I think I'd like to suggest that we think about this sometime later. I agree with you, it'd be nice to do it, but I can't imagine how you can run the system and staff having enough identity of what to do.
Would there be any objection to, if we kept monthly meetings, any objection to make it in conjunction with the city council meetings? I know that timing is not, Mr. Stomo said before, that timing doesn't give the Beach District Board time to review the agenda before the meeting shows up. Was one issue he had. But if we could make the meeting, say the third Monday of the month or the first Monday of the month, would help with some cost issues, and I think that may be helpful.
I'm open to that if we can fit it in. I think the Beach Community District would like to review the agenda within our, you know, so that when we come here, we're prepared. In other words, we have a pretty good handle of what the issues are and what the thoughts are, so that we come here prepared. So if you can schedule them such that would fit and fit your schedule better, that's fine with me.
Okay, Member Schnopp.
You know, I appreciate the suggestion of going to quarterly. It looks like there are some things on the list, though, within the next couple of months, maybe even half year. I was going to make the recommendation that we go to every 2 months. But it sounds as though if we can work it out where it's on a monthly basis, but it's giving you folks the time to go through and be clear on the items for the agenda, then maybe we just go to monthly and go to the third Monday, giving you folks that time. And then be prepared to, you know, go through this list and other things that are very critical. I feel very important. It's very important for us to maximize our time, but also maximize the staff time without there being too much on the financial burden, as well as their burden to come back and report and come up with the agendas. So it's really trying to find that sweet spot within all of this. So I appreciate your suggestion.
I would make a motion, we change our monthly meeting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted an additional comment. Also an issue that we had when we had the Port Hueneme Water Agency meetings the same day as the city council meetings. When we were doing that, invariably we ran into a...
Ran out of time.
Exactly. Very good. You know
He's keeping notes.
You need to schedule the time of the meeting such that you have adequate.
Right.
No reason to be here in more than a couple hours.
That's an hour and a half to hour 45, something like that, before the council meeting. So I'd make a motion, we change our meeting schedule to the third Monday of the month and make sure that the PHWA board meeting starts a minimum of an hour and a half before the council meeting is due.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that we have a couple of presentations for the December meeting. I wasn't sure when this was starting, but if you could start this after the December meeting, because KEH and also I think Mike Morgan from Camarillo are scheduled in for coming to speak at a certain date already for December. So if maybe this, whatever's going to happen can take place maybe starting in January, I think would be beneficial to those who are already scheduled in and may have this on their schedule.
I was going to comment, it looked like that we had a pretty full agenda for December, so that may not be a meeting we wish to change. And I will point out that what's happened in other agencies, this meeting tonight, although we had some excellent presentations, it was actually, aside from the ministerial actions, there was only one action item that we had to take. So I would encourage staff to try and consolidate the items so that, if there's not a whole lot going on, we wouldn't have to meet that month. You can certainly save that way, and that's it's a little judgment on the staff side. Clearly, if we've got time, exigent items that need to be handled within a certain time frame, the clock is ticking, et cetera, then clearly we need to meet. If there's a number of things that need to be taken care of, clearly we need to meet. But if it's just a matter of receiving reports, there are other methodologies that the board can receive reports. And the other option is, of course, using a committee structure. But I think consolidating the meetings on city council nights will certainly save on staff costs and the burden there. And if we are judicious in how we schedule these meetings and recognize that we should only meet when there's actually something to do and not meet just because we're scheduled to meet, I think we can really save the ratepayers on this one.
I have a comment. Can I get a clarification on what the extra cost is? Can you give me that?
You mean the extra cost for the meeting?
For the monthly meetings. I mean, when you say we want to consolidate them and we want to meet on the same day as the city council, what specific cost savings are we talking about?
Well, we provided the estimates during the budget process about the cost for the extra meetings. It was essentially staffing costs, city attorney costs for the extra meetings. And I think the board, we calculated it, and I think the board approved, if I'm not mistaken, about $60,000 or somewhere about that. That was put into the budget. And so if we want to go back and look at the details of those
no, I remember it was around 4,000, but one of the issues was we wanted to meet on the same day as the city council meeting for Port Hueneme, because then there wouldn't be a charge for an attorney. Is that true?
Travel time and basically it's just travel time.
Right.
So even if we have the meetings the same day as the city council, all the other costs aside from the attorney would be the same. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, I again think that I don't know what you mean about consolidating the agenda, because it seems to me, and I brought this up at our board meeting. Our board meets once a month, and then we never see each other. And there are times that just meeting and discussing issues gives us information regarding the general situation of these different operations.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. And it's, again,
I wasn't laughing at you.
It's all right.
Something she said.
It's
going to make this discussion a minute anyway.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So it's again helpful to me. Now, this is an individual issue. I know that others feel differently about it, but I think that communication within the board members is very important, along with staff. Some of the members from the city of Port Hueneme have an advantage because your staff overlays Port Hueneme, so you guys could be walking down the hallway on one day and say, hey, what's going on, and get a quick update, whereas we wouldn't. And that, that's great, but, yes.
Mr. Breeze.
I was just reminded that the third Monday in January and February falls on a holiday.
Mm.
So I would recommend that we table this item till maybe March.
Past the holidays.
Because we would have to have a different meeting in
Direct
Okay, so
comes through once again. I don't know.
So you're offering a substitute, Mr. Breeze, you're offering a substitute motion to table the item.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second for the substitute motion? I'll second. Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion on the motion?
If I could speak to the motion.
Oh, please, go right ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't want to belabor this whole thing. I do want you to consider where that motion was going, and then if it comes back the same way, and it seemed that there was some, and I really appreciate the city being willing to look at how the district may be able to continue its process of reviewing it. I think we need to give a little more thought to it. Even a third Thursday, although we meet the second Tuesday, put your city clerk staff in a difficult position because we wouldn't have packets out by the time our meeting, the information wouldn't be there. So if the board's going to massage this, we really kind of need to figure out how we work within that schedule. I just wanted to mention that for your consideration, and thank you for considering the district's process in that.
Okay, so we can actually direct staff to work with you a little more closely on that, I think. Okay, so there's a motion to continue this item till March. Is that the motion?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Without objection, the motion carries by unanimous vote. We'll see this again in March.
I do, Chair Sharkey, I do have something. So on the minutes from the last meeting, it was where Member Breeze reported that I had attended the Governor's Committee on Drought Preparedness. I just wanted to give just a quick update on that. So that was held in Santa Paula, and we had all kinds of state people who were on the water committees, and and members of the agencies that surround this area, but also to certain cities. So I was there, and City of Ojai was represented, and City of Camarillo. And so we just really went around the table and reported out, what was going on within the communities. Certain communities reported out that they had met the 25% reduction over the summer, et cetera, et cetera. And I was able to talk about how that was communicated to everybody, and the issues that we're facing are a little greater than that, but also knowing too that if we don't take the water that we're currently under contract to take, that we would then pay for the water. So those are some of the other overarching issues that are going on within the water agencies and the cities. So just wanted to report out on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other board member reports and comments? Mark?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Chris Tyson for a very excellent presentation to the Association of Water Agencies, the Issues Committee.
Yeah.
We made a presentation of Port Hueneme's water agency and our program, our task, and our program, and that's a very nice PowerPoint. I'd like to share it with our community, our service district, when we have a chance. So thanks again for doing that.
Thank you for the kind words.
Well done, well done. Any other board member reports and comments? Okay, we'll move to item 6, new business to be agendized. Anything?
I think we might have, there's been a request that the Channel Beach revisited the subject we talked about last meeting with regard to having a separate council for the Port Hueneme agency, separate from the Port Hueneme Council. And we were asked to bring that back to revisit that subject. And if we could re-agendize that for the next meeting to discuss an opportunity to bring in a council separate for the water agency.
You referred to legal counsel?
Yes.
Oh, you're referring to legal. Okay, I didn't understand the question.
Okay, it's a request to agendize. What's the pleasure of the board? All in favor of agendizing?
I'm in favor.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we have, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No.
No.
Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. That'll be on the next agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, anything other new business?
Mr. Chair. All right.
Oh, yes, Oh, look at all that, her voice, okay.
Request for clarification on that, what exactly is going on the agenda?
We want to bring up the subject we discussed last meeting with regard to,
So this is just a discussion item, or is it an action for the board to take?
it would be request for action.
So this would be action to replace?
Yeah, have a council that is specific for the board.
So I had thought that that actually took place and it was turned down last time, that's what I had heard.
We discussed it, yes, that's correct.
So why are we bringing it
I
back
don't think it was
again?
turned down.
I can't remember.
I don't believe it was turned down. I think we discussed it.
It was withdrawn.
It was withdrawn, that's correct.
Mhm. Okay.
We'd like to bring
So
some thoughts to that.
the agenda item will be to direct a search for legal counsel or to put out a request for proposals, request, I'm not sure.
Reconsider the motion.
Reconsider which motion?
The one that was set, was.
The one that was withdrawn?
Withdrawn.
Well, you don't have to reconsider, it's not, you just made a new one.
Okay.
So it's to put an item on the agenda, but we're trying to be specific. But I thought, what I understood the motion to be, okay, maybe I'm misstating it, I understood the motion to be was that we would discuss going forward, discuss whether we wish to go forward with a procedure to search for new legal counsel.
Counsel for the
Well,
water.
it was about the procedure, it was not about hiring new counsel, that's not what I understood. But for clarification, you can state it any way you like, but then
Can I
just
try?
clarify.
Yeah, thanks, Beth.
I think what Board Member Moore wants to do is to discuss the possibility of having the PHWA board have its own separate legal counsel
That's right.
for discussion.
So we're discussing the possibility of going forward with looking for new counsel, not
That's correct.
agendizing the actual search route.
No.
No, that's correct.
Okay, is that clear enough?
Yes,
Okay, good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other new business? Okay. If there's no other new business, we'll move to item 7, open forum. Anybody wishing to speak to this board of any matter not on the agenda, please come forward at this time. Okay, seeing none, we have no closed session this evening, and with no further business and without objection, we will adjourn. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be Wednesday, December the 9th at 4 p.m. or soon thereafter in these chambers. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, thank you all.